of them in this auction, and I went ahead and bought the cylinder heads at my friends.
The paint was done by Flying Weasel out of Keokuk, Iowa.
Seat pan and the passenger seat pan into the frame, so it's all one molded piece.
My name's Jace Schroder. I'm from Cedar Falls, Iowa, and I got a 1966 Harley Shovelhead named Vacation Forever. Nothing too special. It's a Crazy Frank's build. It's got a 16 over Y glide on it. Just had the bright idea one day to paint it like a Hawaiian shirt, so kind of went with that theme, and seems like everybody loves it. I'm not really trying to be the toughest guy around. I just want to have a party and have a good time with my friends. The paint was done by Flying Weasel out of Keokuk, Iowa, and Bob Anderson. The murals are all hand paint, one shot, like pinstripe style. So my parents snowbird in Florida, and I asked them to give me a party shirt for my birthday, and they came back with this killer Hawaiian, and I just gave it to Michael, and he just copied it best he could, I guess. So the grass cap and air cleaner cover engraved by Don Lang. So when I came up with that Hawaiian shirt idea, I was really going for that whole theme. Just kind of Googled then like Hawaiian skulls, and Tallboy artist showed up with that Vacation Forever. It's one of his. So Don emailed the guy and asked me if he could do this artwork on an air cleaner cover, and he said yep, and took off. So originally the bike was named High Tide, and that didn't really stick. Everybody saw that Vacation Forever on the air cleaner, and that's what everybody started calling it. So the Crazy Frank's fender. It's an OG one. It's the one from back in the day. It's not one of his newer ones. I got that from a buddy of mine, Dave Polgreen. Yeah, so I had to redo all the molding on it, but my seat guy had to redo the pans and everything when I did that palm tree seat on there. The old pans were pretty roached, so. That frame was stretched slightly when I got it, so I just redid the molding on it. Originally, I built the bike at a 10 over narrowed wide glide. It's like an inch narrower than stock. And then this last winter, I went to rebuild it. Was missing a bunch of parts, so I went up to a full 16 over full wide glide on that. So I had to put the fork brace on there because it's so long now that the tubes don't really shock. They don't make like compression. They bend. So it's a little sketchy without the fork brace on there. So I built that bike in 2017, so I've been riding. That's why there's big chunks of paint missing, and it's pretty greasy. But the year I got it done, I took it to Giddy Up, Texas. The first time kind of down there doing any chopper stuff. We did tons of riding. Me and my buddy AJ Anderson from Dream Company Cycles just did a ton of riding down there and had a blast. And it was just awesome to be on a brand new chopper, and nobody had ever seen it. And just had a hell of a time. I went to motorcycle mechanic in school, and some of my friends out there in Phoenix were into choppers, and that was back when Love Cycles was really big. We'd go down to his shop and hang out and see all that stuff, and that's just kind of what got the bug. Moved back to Iowa and went to this little chopper show called Full Tilt in Minneapolis, and all those dudes were like super welcoming, and they were like little community, and just kind of took off from there. Jace Schroder from Cedar Falls, Iowa. My Instagram is Kraut Squatch, and thanks for looking at my bike.
This recap video is brought to you by Throttle Addiction. With thousands of chopper parts, a 90-day return policy, and free shipping on orders over $100, throttleaddiction.com is the best place to build your dream bike. Check out their selection of custom handlebars, fuel tanks, made in the USA hardtails, and so much more. For more than a decade, Throttle Addiction has been manufacturing and selling the best custom parts on the market. Build, customize, and ride. throttleaddiction.com.
I'm Al Hackel. I'm from Bloomington, Illinois, and I brought my, as well as a motorcycle. I built it myself, so I guess it's a 2023 Hackel. I built the frame. I started with 51 Panhead blueprints, and then I kind of went a little bit taller on the top tube to fit the motor I made, which brings us to the motor, which is one cylinder from a R975 radial engine. And I made the case, the crank, the rod, the cam, basically everything on the motor except for the cylinder head itself. So I was like on eBay at 3 in the morning, couldn't sleep. I'm just looking on eBay and I found some cylinder heads. And there were 3 of them in this auction, and I went ahead and bought the cylinder heads, and they sat on my shelf for like a year, and I just kept looking at them. And I wanted to make a V-twin out of them. And a friend of mine says, hey, you know, why would you go to the trouble to make a V-twin if you don't know it's gonna work? Make a single first. Just like make sure your design is good as a single. So I made a single, and then I'm looking at it, and I'm like, well, there's some things like the fins on the rocker boxes. They're just kind of happy accidents. It's just, oh, this might look cool, and then I step back and I'm like, yeah, that does look cool. I'm not mad at that at all. I have a small issue with the bearing on the cam side of things. Not on the drive side, but the other side. It's a little too tight. I went full machinist. You're not supposed to go full machinist. And I just made it a little too tight, so I got to take it back apart and fix that, and then I think we're ready to kick it over. Has a headlight with some blown glass. It has an eyeball in there, and there's a little bit more blown glass throughout the bike. Like on the carburetor, there's glass velocity stacks and a glass tail light, all made by a friend of mine, Jesse Briggs. So Jesse makes these, what's the politically correct term? Water pipes, I guess, that have eyeballs and these little tentacles and these cute little devices. I just messaged him, I'm like, hey, you want to do some motorcycle parts? And he was super cool and said, yeah, this is no problem. So I just gave him a general idea of what I wanted, and then he would make the glass parts, and then I would find out how to kind of incorporate them afterwards. So, because I didn't know how well you could hold tolerances in glass, I didn't know it was reasonable, so I just said, here's about what I want, and I'll make it fit. They're what's called hard glass. It's similar to like Pyrex, so they're not that delicate. If it breaks, it breaks. It'll be sad, but we'll just do something else cool at that point. I made the front forks to look like a 1950s Vincent Gerdrolic fork. So I started with the Vincent Gerdrolic is kind of my base. And before I make anything in metal, I make it out of like wood or foam or something, just to see if I like it or not. And so that was kind of a symptom of making the first one out of wood. It looked really plain without that rib along the top. And that kind of gave it more dimension. So, I don't know. I don't have any defense for why I did what I did. It's got a bone stock 47 Harley 4-speed transmission. I made the rear hub and drum and brake and everything. It's a hydraulic drum. It's a 9-inch drum, so I wanted the biggest. I only have one brake on the bike, so I wanted the biggest drum I could get. If you look at it from the other side, it looks like a 29 Model A wire wheel. The spoke pattern is almost exactly the same. And if you know Model A hot rods at all, most guys run what they call like a 50s Buick finned drum. And so I cut fins into my drum to kind of look like that. But it uses parts from like a Toyota Corolla or something. Like the master cylinder and the drum themselves are from a Toyota. And I just kind of made it all fit. I never had like one start to finish plan. It's a very fluid evolution of, well, I have this space left, what'll fit here? How like the oil tank, it's just a gazing ball like you would put in your garden. It's just a stainless steel cylinder or sphere, and it's like from Amazon. It costs like $10. Part of that was really just luck that it all flowed so nicely together. I did try and keep sort of a retrofuturism theme, kind of that, that golden age of comics, that look to it. Half luck and half happy accidents. I don't know. It's not. Certainly not a cohesive plan. I'm a machinist. I used to do a lot of job shop work, which is basically fixing, anything that comes in the door, but mostly like industrial machinery. You get to learn a lot of skills, but like not master any of them. You just know enough. So I kind of got to take all those experiences and turn it into a motorcycle. I've built cars professionally, but building cars for other people, you don't get to do what you want to do. And cars are kind of big and I don't have a lot of room. So I thought, let's build a motorcycle because, like if you take the engine out of a car, you got a little crane, you roll up there and you pull the engine out of the car and it takes 2 guys. But if you're going to take the engine out of a motorcycle, you just bear hug it and take it out of the bike, It's so much easier, so much cooler. It's so much more freeing, and there's so much more room for individual expression. My neighbor would come by every week, and I live out in the middle of nowhere. Everybody around me has a farm. So my neighbor would come over every week and bring me a dozen eggs from his chickens. And it took like 5 or 6 weeks before I realized he wasn't bringing me eggs. He wanted an excuse to stop by and see the progress on the bike. And so for the last year and a half, he's been stopping by watching me build this bike. And we're putting it in the van just yesterday. And he looks down and he's like, wait a minute, you've got this little detail right in front of your transmission mount. I've never seen this before. And he's been staring at it for a year and a half. There's just so many little things. I thought it was kind of funny that he could, even the guy that's been helping me take the motor in and out could miss a detail on there. So my name is Al Hackel. I'm from Bloomington, Illinois. And my Instagram is Al Hackel, all smushed together without any spaces.
I'm Jack Weidmayer. I'm from Delaware County, Pennsylvania, right outside Philly. I brought a 1952 Survivor Panhead here with me today. Saw a Facebook Marketplace ad like 40 minutes after it was posted. Everyone was hopping on the area. I just got really lucky. Drove down to Delaware, like 3 hours away, like real southern tip. There's a guy named Roach built it in the late 70s. He built the bike in the late 70s, rode in a Baltimore motorcycle club called Abraxas. I couldn't find much about that, but the bike was disgusting. It's the first smelly bike I've ever had. You get like reeked, there was hair all over it. No, Roach died. His widow hung onto it for a while, a really, really long time. I saw his cut, which had Abraxas, but when I tried to Google and kind of dig in, there was not much information about it. All I found was one forum post comment where someone briefly mentioned knowing the club out of Baltimore. But other than that, I have no other information. I just have one picture to work off of. My plan kind of was just to tear it all apart and put it back how it looked. So I stripped the whole bike down, cleaned it up the best I could. He was running an oil filter, so inside the cylinders looked like he just had like a handful of dirt in his oil tank. So did some top end work. The heads were a little tired. But that's about all the mechanical work I did. The rest was just cleaning it up. I got Mikey machine paints to put an inner coat over it. So the paint was like, I was playing a fine game of the more I cleaned, the more it fell off. And when I was talking to Mikey, he was telling me that he could put an inner coat in, which would put a layer between the clear coat and the existing paint, make it less likely for a weird reaction to happen. And that really made the bike look awesome. And it kind of stopped it from flaking off, or kind of preserved it. I thought the hand clutch was really stupid until I started riding it. And it was kind of fun. I think the reason he had it was because those mouse traps were really hard to adjust properly. I'd never done this. This is my first Panhead, actually. And thankfully, I had my father help me a lot through the build. I don't think I would have been able to get it as nice as it was without his help. I would have got it together, but it really mechanically runs great, and I really thank him for that. So I just put the whole bike together, and then about like 6 or 7 months in the project, the original owner gave me a photo of what it looked like, and I was so relieved because it had like the craziest big-ass ape hangers. You wouldn't believe it. It looked so sketchy to ride. But in the original photo, it just has like two like taper-styled Panhead risers into drag bars, which is really easy to find. That's about the only change I made to the bike. And I put an oil filter on just to mitigate it, because there's no air cleaner or anything, just straight to the carb. He did a really cool molding. His widow was telling me that he used like a hanger wire to make all these really intricate covers over the axle plates. And on the rear fender, there's another little intricate design. That is really cool until you have to like adjust your axles, because the whole plate takes up the whole rear of the frame. I took it up to Worcester Bike Week, and I thought she would think it's cool I got it running, and she didn't seem too interested, but she said he really loved the bike. Apparently he put a lot of miles on it. We were just talking earlier about what he would think, like something he made in the late 70s, still going out to shows and stuff. I'm Jack Weidmayer. I'm from Delaware County, Pennsylvania, right outside Philadelphia. And my Instagram is weekweld, @weekweld.
My name's Kendal Lutchman. I live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I have a 1976 Shovelhead. The bike started originally as a PBR bike that Warren hired from Mama Tried. Myself, Bobby the Leg, and a couple other guys built that bike for PBR promotion for the second Mama Tried. And the bike has always been like a community bike. Well, fast forward years, the bike always sat in Warren's shop, and I started riding it. Everyone rode it, and I had the opportunity to buy the bike. I started redoing the bike my way. The basic structure of the bike was there, you know, so I changed the tank and fender, exhaust pipes. Warren's dad rebuilt the motor for me, changed some stuff, but for the most part, the roller is still the same bike. Redid it all and painted it, but I spray painted it. It's been in spray paint for a couple years now, and last year I told myself, hey, it'll be cool if you actually paint something because you're a painter, you know? So I decided to paint it for the anniversary, and everyone's like, oh, what color? And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do like this magenta, and everyone was like, what? Then I painted it, and everyone saw it, and it made me feel good because they were like, whoa, dude, that color. And so, yeah. And then I got invited to Mama Tried. Still not done yet. I still want to do a couple more stuff to it, but it's my only reliable bike that I ride every day in the summertime, you know. So as pretty as it is, it still gets ridden, you know. Yeah, so when you start painting something like that, you have to start with a solid color. A base coat. It's all candies, so which is transparent. Candy's transparent paint. So I make a base coat, and I shoot the candy translucent over it, which enhances the base coat. And then you clear coat it. Then you sand it all down. Then you start laying all your graphics out. So now you could put layers and layers, and you just keep going. Sky's the limit, you know. It took me about a week and a half to do that paint, not counting the pinstriping. So just spraying all the colors. Because sometimes you still want to let it sit. It has to dry. You can't keep going, you know, and that's our biggest problem. We all are so anxious. I'm guilty of that. I'm anxious. Once I start, I want to keep going. And that's when you start screwing things up, you know, because stuff is not drying properly, and you're rushing drying stuff, like putting a heat lamp to it and stuff like that. So, but roughly about a week and a half, it is time consuming. So the gold leaf on it, a lot of people always ask, like, what is that? Well, they call it gold leaf, but it's variegated gold leaf, which is an imitation gold. I'm guessing it's some kind of brass. If it doesn't get clear coated, it tarnishes. So if you want it to tarnish, you can just leave it. But also, if you don't clear coat it, you could scratch it. You normally see that stuff on like lowriders and signage around the city and stuff like that. That's what it's used for. There's a cutout on the tank that I did. I always wanted to do something like that, like where it looks like you took a mini ice cream scooper and like scooped a piece of the metal out. That's how my mind works, I guess. So I fabricated that, changed the mounts on the tank. I fabricated the exhaust, which is a V-twin exhaust, 2-in-1 for a cone shovel, squish pipe, and it fit like crap. So I ended up cutting that up. I made the foot peg mounts. I fabricated the fender to fit on some brackets, but other than that, 90% of the fabrication that was on the bike already was done previously from Warren and other buddies. So I've known Warren probably close to like 20 years now, if not more. And when Warren still lived in Illinois, I used to paint stuff for them. Well, he acquired this knucklehead, and he called me one day. I think he was already living in Milwaukee at that point. He called me and said, hey man, would you be down to like paint a mural on my tank? And I was like, yeah, dude, for real, because people weren't really painting murals in 2009 and 10. You were normally finding old tanks that already had murals on it. And like, I'm a nerd when it comes to paint. Like, I actually do paint. I could paint fine art. I don't do it, but I could do it, you know? And so he's like, hey, I want this like Frank Frazetta. And I'm like, well, who the fuck is Frank Frazetta? I don't know who this is, you know? So I looked it up, and he sent me a picture, and I was like, oh, I've seen that, you know, like, Molly Hatchet cover, you know, that's where I saw it. Cool. I was like, yeah, let's do it. I probably took probably close to a month to hand paint that with doing body work on it. Then I did the gold leaf on it after. Yeah, it's all hand painted. A lot of people think it's like a water decal, and it's like, no, it's all hand painted, it's all brush. Now fast forward years later, and people be like, oh man, this and that. And I was like, well, you ever seen this bike? And they're like, the Death Dealer bike. Everyone knows that it's Death Dealer bike. It's an iconic knucklehead in Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Midwest. Everyone knows the Death Dealer. Like, it's just a rad, badass bike. And I was like, oh yeah, well, I painted that like 10, 12 years ago. And they're like, wait, you painted that? That's paint? Kind of show people that I also, I don't like saying fine art skills, but in a sense, it's like fine art skills, you know? It's a different ball game from laying tape. Like, nothing against people who can only tape, that's fine, you know? But I kind of do it all, you know? I could do a mural, I could do graphics, I could do lettering, sign painting stuff, so it kind of, I'm just fortunate, I guess. I'm very lucky to have these skills to do these things, but as a kid growing up, I always wanted to learn, well, how do you do that? How do you do that? And that's why I'm well-rounded with a lot of stuff I do, like from the fabrication to the paint. Yeah, it's pretty cool when you get to paint stuff like the Death Dealer, and it's sitting in the Harley Museum right now, you know, it's pretty cool. Like, but I painted a lot of stuff for a lot of builders, which I'm pretty fortunate to get that opportunity because they're really rad builders and the stuff they do is mind-blowing, and they call me to put the final touches on it, and that means a lot, you know? So it's pretty cool. My name's Kendal Lutchman. I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I do paint and fab. It's Kendal Paint and Fab. And my Instagram is Kendal with the number 1 and an L at the end, because Kendall Jenner took the Kendal Instagram handle, so.
My name's Robert Mayer from Peace, Minnesota. The bike I brought to the show this year at Montage is a 1963 Panhead. It's a fully hand-built frame. It's 10 up, 3 back with a 30 over Springer front end. I fully molded head tube all the way back to the rear fender, so oil tanks all custom made, rear fenders all handmade, and then I built the driver's seat pan and the passenger seat pan into the frame, so it's all one molded piece. Up front, it's got a Northern Springer 30 over with an Invader front. Gusher cycles made me the bars, the swoopy bars. Molded tank, just a lowbrow standard 1.8. What else? Got the custom fin panhead tops, 4-speed, jockey shift, open primary, leading back to the invader in the back. Also the 60 bar is made, and then I got an old Plymouth hood ornament as the tail light, and Pontiac matching headlights up front. The front lights are Pontiac running lights, turned sideways, and I wanted them kind of sleeved down into the front end, so I snuck them down a little bit with bracketry to kind of hide them inside of the Springer. It gives it a pretty cool look, I think. Keeps them out of my view when I'm riding. And out back is a Pontiac tail light off a hood, 51 I believe, and it's got a LED behind the clear fin to glow when I'm riding. I brought the frame way up. It's kind of a style you saw in the 70s, gooseneck style, but the main reason is I'm a pretty small guy and I wanted a tall bike with a long front end, and the only way to really achieve it and have it be rideable was to bring it up higher so I could reach. So when I'm riding, I can barely see over the top of it, but proportion-wise to my body, it works really well. The biggest challenge of building my own frame is I've never done it before, so I started that build by building the entire frame jig. So not only did I build the frame, but I had to come up with all the jigs to hold everything where I wanted it, and figure all that out. But I ran into a little dilemmas here and there as far as getting everything straight and proportional in the way I wanted it. But yeah, that was the most difficult part, was getting the frame how I wanted it, jigged out, and for it not to break in half when I was riding it. So far, so good. I rode out in California for the Biltwell deal, and then I probably rode this summer, probably about 1,000 miles. But this next summer, I plan on really putting them on, doing some big long trips and really getting into it and going far distances. I've got it off the front end off the ground a couple of times, so I'm pretty confident in all the framework. Everything's gusseted really well. The motor was built by a buddy of mine, Tim Wolf, in Princeton, who is a phenomenal engine builder, and I trust that motor 100%. He went through the trans as well, so as far as drivability and going a long ways, I'm pretty confident for this summer. I restore classic cars as a profession. I do everything from mini trucks to 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s car restoration, and the bike things are kind of my side project. Obviously, Minnesota, this area has really cold winters, so I like to build one bike for myself every winter to stay busy, but a lot of my car building techniques flowed into this bike as a build. There's a lot of 50s, 60s hot rod styling references in the bike, so it was kind of neat. Kind of stands out from the rest a little bit just because of the car stuff. The coolest thing I got to do with this bike was to play with, so I did a lot of curve accents and kind of mellow accents with my metalwork, because I know candy paints really well, especially the old red candies. So I carried what I've done on cars on bigger panels and figured out how to work it onto a motorcycle, which has much smaller references and details. So a lot of, I brought more of the car into the bike, but I can see some things I could do on cars now because of the bike, especially with like Frenching and smoothing and inserts and stuff like that. I did do one ride. It's called Hay Creek Chopper Run. It's a deal me and my upholstery guy Darren put on every year, and I took that on. I think it was about 400 or 500 mile weekend with no problems, and the bike actually performs a lot better than I thought it would. For never building a long bike or anything close to that, I'm really, really happy with the way it rides, which is scary because you spend all this time and money on something and cross your fingers that it works, but it works better than I could have hoped for. I got my pack on the back and all my sleeping and camping gear, and cool bike to put it on. So yeah, it's awesome. I kind of started off building bobbers, and I've always been a car guy, but my dad ended up giving me his bike when he retired it, which was an old Evo, and I built a little bobber out of that one winter. And the more I started customizing, the more I kind of was drawn into the chopper scene, per se. Started following people like Kevin Bass, who was a local guy out of Prior Lake, and seeing what he was doing, and started realizing, what this old Harley Davidson stuff was. So started digging into panheads and shovelheads, and one thing led to another, and it progressed into what you see now. And I still have a lot to learn and a lot to build. This is my first custom chopper, so it was my first try at it, and I plan on building, a handful more before I say enough, so we'll see where that all goes. The name's Robert Mayer from Peace, Minnesota. My Instagram is @Bobby63Pan.
Scott Peck from Southport, North Carolina, and I brought a 1974 Harley Shovelhead. Bought the bike off a good friend of mine back in 2017, Eric Stein. So I've been running it ever since, and last year we decided to change the bike up and basically do a little makeover with it. So I had one of my real good friends, Holly from Butcher Shop. We did a little design plan and decided that we're going to do some changes to the bike, which we did. The rear tire, did the seat, put a new tank on there, some new bars, new oil tank. Basically, Rhett, we took our designs that were on paper and Rhett ended up putting them on the bike, which he did a phenomenal job. So we basically it's a rider bike, so we basically wanted to keep it the same style bike with the same stance. So we basically just, wanted to do a color change, give it a little change to the bars, narrow the bars up a little bit, and put a little bit more chrome in there, a little bit more flash on the bike. It's got two Willwood calipers on the back, which is, it's the only brakes you got on the bike, so you might as well have some real good brakes on the back. I try to ride between my old cars and my old trucks. I try to drive or ride the bike as much as I can. But every year I try to get some friends together, which I held an event called the War Run, but try to get all my buddies together and do some riding at the same time. But that's what we try to do. Try to get on the road as much as we can. Yeah, so me and Rhett, we had some design. We really, we definitely wanted to go with some back to some flames back on the bike, but we wanted to try to reduce it just a little bit. So we came up with a design just to run it down the center of the tank. Jason from 33 Custom Color did the tank and painted the frame, but he did a phenomenal job doing the tank, and it really brought the bike back out. We kept the tank the same design that was on there originally, but we changed the design up a little bit. We put a new set of bars on there and run the internal throttle. I just love that because we try to keep the bike real slimline, keep it real clean looking, and at the same time, you get people guessing, wondering, where's the throttle on this thing, and where's the front brake on the thing. So, the people that are outside that really don't know much about, this type of scene, they're used to, riding like brand new Harleys and stuff like that. It kind of throws them for a loop when they don't know, you kind of don't know where everything's at. So it's nice. Our mindset between me and Rhett is to just keep everything real simple, clean, and make it a runner, make it a rider. It's definitely not a show bike. That bike's been built since 2013, so it's been built for, a little over 10 years right now, so it definitely's got some miles on it, for sure. But like I said, last year we did a little makeover on it, and just decided to spruce it up a little bit and get it back on the road again. So excited to be here, super excited and thankful for Scott and Warren to invite me, back to Montage. It's probably one of the best. It is honestly one of the best events like in the country, and I love coming here. I drive 16 hours from North Carolina to come to this event, and we haven't missed it like in the last 5 years. So, it's highly recommended. We love it. Love the atmosphere. Loves the venue. The venue here is amazing, and the people. Everything about Milwaukee is real. It's awesome. I got awarded today with the Design Team Award, which blew me, I was in total shock, and was told to come down here next to the bike, and then all of a sudden, the VP, Brad Richards from Harley Davidson, was there to present me with the award, which, I'm beyond honored to receive that. But like I said, the credit really doesn't go. I take the credit with Rhett Hawley from Butcher Shop because he's the one that puts the design on the bike that we basically come with it together. You know what I'm saying? I always appreciate you guys at Throttle Addiction coming out and wanting to know about the bike and asking to interview me. It means a lot to me, and I don't. The hard work that we do to try to get these bikes to look how they are or whatever, but just let everybody know they're riders. They don't sit in a the showroom. They get put on the road and we put miles on them for sure. Scott Peck from Southport, North Carolina. My Instagram is _Big Scott with another underscore. That's about it. Appreciate it.
This recap video is brought to you by Throttle Addiction. With thousands of chopper parts, a 90-day return policy, and free shipping on orders over $100, throttleaddiction.com is the best place to build your dream bike. Check out their selection of custom handlebars, fuel tanks, made in the USA hardtails, and so much more. For more than a decade, Throttle Addiction has been manufacturing and selling the best custom parts on the market. Build, customize, and ride. throttleaddiction.com.